Hey everybody, there's a little bit of construction outside per usual, but I really wanted to make this video. I thought this would be super exciting. I have people asking me about it kind of often, so I thought it would be great. And I just want to talk about my piercing scars and my retired piercings, where they went, what they were. I do have some jewelry I can show, but this is going to be like a lot of flashback photos. And I know I saw the meme, no one cares about your Throwback Thursday. Just to give you a visual, there will be some photos. Have asked me like, is your philtrum still pierced? And I just want to say that it isn't. This is what it looks like right now. Just this like little hole. So my philtrum was stretched to a 4 gauge. I had it pierced at a 10 and then I stretched it to all the way down to the 4. And stretching it was not easy. It was really painful. Like, not to say I was doing it incorrectly, but it was a zesty spot to stretch. If you see anyone with a stretched philtrum in your life, just give them something to eat. Like, give them a pat on the back, because that wasn't pretty. I had my philtrum pierced for probably 5 years, probably 6 years. I loved it. It was a huge part of me. I feel like it really centered my body. I always appreciate a philtrum piercing on anybody. I think that they're beautiful and amazing. I did take it out because of my job, but I didn't experience any gum recession or anything like that. Everything was all hunky-dory and good. It never got in my way. I always thought it was really beautiful. But yeah, I did take it out to work at my job, and that's why I no longer have it. Next, I want to talk about my low brays, which you can kind of see when I suck my face in. And those were cool too. I had those probably for only about 6 months. I didn't stretch them. I kept them at the standard size that they were pierced at, which was 14. I called them low brays because I wanted them lower than my lip so they would rest about here. I can show a picture of them in action. They were great, but I was working at McDonald's when I had them, and I also had a variety of other piercings at the time, and my boss at the time said, "You gotta lose some of them." So the low brays came and went, and they were great, but the scars are still there. But I really like the scars. I think that they're cool, so they don't really bother me. So the next piercing I have, if I can get in there, you can see right here, this little scar, and then this scar over here, which is a little bit more predominant, were both microdermals. And I can show a picture from them. So I still have one of my little microdermal guys, and this one was a teardrop. And what I liked about the teardrop is I thought it was so cool. I loved having it, but I did have this one on my left cheek done 3 different times, and the first time I just had it taken out. The second time, the base that sat underneath the skin, it kind of looked exactly like this. It had a post that sat under the skin, which was inserted, and then a screw that sat right here, and then your little piece would screw on top and rest against the skin. But this little piece was starting to like rise up, so I had it taken out, and then I had another piece put under my skin that had 2 feet on each side, so just the screw was out, and then 2 feet sat underneath the skin. But my skin is very light and tender and sensitive, so I could sometimes see that large piece underneath my skin, and I could like push it back and forth like in a seesaw motion, and after a while became irritated. The 2 foot was definitely the way for me to go, but I think it was just such thin and sensitive skin underneath the eyes. Like, you can see all my veins and you can see all of that stuff, so you can just understand how clearly you could see it. A lot of people see my conches and they have questions about them. Someone asked me once, like, what are those holes? And I was like, you gotta give me more information. I don't know what that means. What are these holes? They're my conch, and I did have them punched open, thermal punched at this size. That's why you see that they're a nice perfect circle, and they're pretty open. I haven't worn jewelry in them for probably 2 years, so you can see that they're not really going to change at all. I have both sides done. When I initially had them pierced, I had them pierced one at a time, so I could sleep kind of comfortably. I used to love them. I thought they were great. I have 2 of my Conch Pins with me right here. I'm not going to try to put them in because it will cause me discomfort that will stay with me throughout the day. So I'm just going to put those down. The reason I stopped wearing them, because I was allowed to wear them at my job, it was just hard for me to wear them when I was becoming more active. Like, before, I was just like Sleeping Beauty and just went through my life like, ooh. But when I was, you know, seeing John and being more active, my conch pins were being knocked out a lot. And they would come out in the shower, and they would come out while I was sleeping, and I was like embarrassed, like, don't look at them, don't look at my conch pins. So it turned into me just wearing them sometimes, just wearing them when I was alone, or if I knew that I wasn't gonna get in anything that day. When I met John, like, he was taking me swimming, and he was taking me hiking, and he was doing all these things with me, and he is not a tattooed or pierced person. So when I was like at a show, like looking for my plugs on the floor, he was like, what's up? And you know, you can't just like jump into a river with your conch pins in, but he didn't really ever experience that or like knew anyone who was limited by their piercings. So like I said, it turned into me wearing them just sometimes, and then wearing them once in a while, and then just not wearing them at all. And I don't have much of a desire to wear them anymore. Like, I could probably wear them to beauty school and be fine, but I've really gotten used to the way the piercing hole looks, and it doesn't bother people as much because they don't really understand what it is, and they may think it's like a medical thing, which is like really rude to comment on, even though it's just rude to comment on it, anything in general. But I don't get a lot of trouble about it, other than what's those holes. So some of you might know that I originally had my plugs or whatever in my ear for a lifetime, and I did have them scalpeled to have them corrected so that they would sit more equally in my ear and it would yield better stretching results and my ears would appear more healthy. These were the plugs that were put in my ear after they were scalpeled, and you can see them right there. They're just really basic glass plugs, and I have a ton of plugs, really. I should probably put them on my Depop shop because I have so many, and there's probably way more at my old house, but yeah, just so many plugs. At my largest I was at 1 inch, but these are probably my most favorite plugs I've ever owned. You can see they have that opalite inlay, and they're just so beautiful. But if you're interested in this jewelry, let me know and I'll put it on my Depop shop. I have a ton of ear weights too. I can post a photo of those. These were the biggest my ears ever were. Like, that's so crazy. But these heavy plugs would fall out while I was riding my bike or while I was in the shower. I swear, I've gone through so many of these. So, a lot of people, I wore my septum ring the other day, and a couple people were asking me like, hey, I want my septum pierced, what was it like? What's your experience with it? And what I have to reveal to everybody is that my septum piercing isn't just like a little baby, that my septum is stretched to a 0 gauge, and I can tell you, stretching my septum was the most zesty experience ever. It was painful. When you stretch cartilage, it's all systems go. But, so, I don't wear anything in my septum, ever. But it's never going to close. It's never going to go back to what it was before I stretched it. I had it pierced at a 14 gauge, and I went all the way to a 0, one by one. And I had it pierced either the senior year of high school or right after we graduated. So my septum piercing is like the longest one I've ever had besides my nostrils, and I guess I should just show you. And if you feel weird about things, just close your eyes for a second, because my septum is this big. And I used to wear plugs in it and different things like that, but because it's so large, sometimes I feel like things dangling in it are very loose. And I do wear my Marie attach clicker in there sometimes, but for the most part, I just leave it open in the air. And I can put this plug in there to kind of show you how it looks with jewelry in it. And if you're grossed out and now you hate me, now you know that that's how big my septum is. I don't really recommend stretching your septum. I used to think it was great when I would wear a tunnel in there. I have a really cool photo of it, but for me, I have a lot of post-nasal drip because of it. My nose runs all the time. In the winter, it's so much worse. And when I would try to wear jewelry, it was just waterworks. And for me, not touching it or talking about it seems to be the only way to keep it at bay. So that's my septum. Now for my nostrils. So I've had my nostrils pierced on and off again probably 4 times, and I don't really recommend that. Like, if you know you want your nose pierced, just have it pierced and keep it. But so here's what my nostril looks like on both sides. You can tell that that one's been pierced in every which way, and then this one doesn't look that bad. The reason the holes are so predominant is because I had stretched my nostrils to a 10 gauge, which is pretty normal looking, except it gave them like a nice kind of larger aesthetic, which I really liked, and I used to wear plugs in them. I don't know, I used to wear a hoop, sometimes I would wear 2 studs, sometimes I would wear 2 plugs. I used to think it was great. I don't have any intention on putting any jewelry back in there, just because if I get my nose pierced one more time, it's going to explode. So my last piercing, and sorry I'm trying to look so sporty today, piercing is my navel, and I had it pierced when I was 14, and I can tell you that that was super dumb. You can see that there's a lot of scarring right there from when I continued to grow because I was only 14. And then I had my reverse navel done, which looks fine. I like the little dot, I think it's cute, but that scar stays with me, and I think that it's nasty. So I wear everything high-waisted, so no one has to know. Even with my ears sewn up, I still feel just as much involved and interested as I've ever been. For me, it's just not the life that I'm in anymore, and not to say that I'm super active anyway, but I kind of focused on tattoos and took out all my piercings and feel fine about it. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what piercings are on your bucket list or how you've been perceived now that you're not wearing your piercings. Yeah, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and let me know how you feel. And let me know if you remember these pictures because I'm pulling them right off my Tumblr. But yeah, so thank you so much and bye!